All systems go. Clear for liftoff. What's up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, a.k.a. ToeTagginTambo, back for another edition of the weekly review show, reviewing all the contests from Sunday, DFS, DraftKings, going to look at the $20 Millie Maker. I know everyone has something to say about that lineup. We'll have some things to say as well. We'll talk about the $555 Millie Maker winner. I'll show a lineup that I had that was in the mix. I know a lot of people tilted. There was some sweats there at the end. We had some winners. Everybody, you can't all win. That's part of the way it goes. Here with my guys, as always, Nades and Tyler from LineStar. We'll get to those guys in a minute, but before we get into it, I want to remind you guys very quickly, this show is brought to you and presented by LineStarApp.com. You can go over there, check it out. We'll get more on that in a minute, but if you do want to check it out, use the promo code SHIPIT on sign up. You'll be able to check that out. And then also, last day for the code, it's going to expire at, we actually wanted it to expire after Friday, but we let it go until the Monday Night Football because we forgot about Cyber Monday, right? I posted the tweet out this morning, the Succession one where all the emails rolling in. It's either a fun day if you're like my wife and you're upstairs just running that credit card on every site that has a deal to offer, or it's a fun day if you want to clear your inbox and unsubscribe to a lot of those email chains that you subscribe to for no reason. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Jamon Brown, right out of the gate, subscribed and paid. Should have been on the SHIPIT Nation train. Happy to have you now. The train, it's actually a rocket ship. Not a train, but it's not stopping anytime soon. But it is the last chance to get on for the price point that we've got. Shout out to guy Tweezy, Parabay, always in the Discord helping out. Great guy. Sean Sullivan's in here. Vinny, Newens. Man, Newens got some bad stuff yesterday. He's got a little Discord slap, but he's back. He's always here to support all the others. Big Rob, Ham, our guy, is in the chat. Tyler, I'm going to bring you in first. Our excellent guest from LineStar. You know we're going to break down the perfect lineup. You know we're going to talk all things from yesterday, but how you doing, my friend? How was your Thanksgiving holiday?
I'm good, man. Thanksgiving was nice. You know, it's nice to have a little bit of a break from the chaos and watch a lot of good football.
Yeah, we love that. That's what it's all about. Nades, yourself, how was yours and how are things, buddy? You look like you're ready for Christmas now. You move right on to the next one. Look at that tree back there.
Yeah, got the tree there. Thanksgiving, I mean, it's been a tradition growing up. Thanksgiving, the day after, right, Friday. Obviously, no school, things like that. Growing up, we always put the tree up and did Christmas lights and stuff like that. Me and my dad. So had to carry the little tradition on through a little Christmas tree in the background. Had to spice up the little backdrop a little bit. Obviously, doing a bunch of these shows, but Thanksgiving was great. Ate a lot of good food. Had some really good lineups. Just didn't get all the way home. I know I was talking to you quite a bit about late swap and stuff, just trying to refine my process in that and always constantly get better, as everyone in the chat should be doing. That's why you're here watching the show. We do it ourselves as well. Obviously, the sport and the industry is forever evolving, and we're just trying to find angles to better our process and stuff like that. So overall, pretty solid weekend. I'm ready to dive in, and there's more money to be made if you haven't had the greatest week yet. We got a nice little NFC North division game here tonight between the Bears and the Vikings. So we'll break that down for sure.
Yeah, and we'll be breaking that game down later on. Hoop, Title, and myself, as always, over on the Mega Media Network, 2 p.m. Eastern. We got some giveaways today. As usual, it's like the common saying now, but for sure, have some giveaways from some members. Again, the community is great. People pass things along. We've got some monthly memberships to give away, maybe a hoodie, maybe some cash. We'll see how it goes, but all depends on the engagement. Same thing here. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. We are now less than 300 subscribers away from giving away that annual membership. So I thought it may end up being a nice Christmas present for someone. It may end up being a lot sooner, maybe even in November. So we'll see. And then maybe we give another one closer to Christmas, but excited to break this down. We got a lot of good things going on right now over at SHIPIT Nation. So start with that quickly, break it down as usual. Then I'll let Tyler talk about LineStar. I know they've got a lot of great things going on as well, but we had a huge week. Again, I know last week we talked about it with the Mega Millie Maker winner. We didn't get to review that because it happened Monday night, and that was with our guy Mark. He won the Millie Maker, but this last week, capped it off last night. Our guy Yaji goes on to win the $120K in the showdown slate last night, which was crazy. It was a $50K lineup. You don't usually see a 50K lineup ship it just 4 ways. So he posted it early in the Discord with 109 points, saying it's looking like a good week. It was just really the ending didn't update or whatever. His final score was here with 116.98. I built up the tweet this morning. I said, insert groundhogday.gif for our guy Dalton, D-Dry. He had to join the fun again, too. Every friggin' week, this guy just absolutely crushing. Love to see it from him. He's out there. Another 120,000 for him. Raul had a nice run. We're going to look at his lineup. So Raul won a $25 ticket. He was in a $25 contest, won the 555 ticket. When we get to those lineup reviews, we're going to look at his Paisel Pampu in there. He crushed it, won 20K with that. Our guy K-Craps won his 4th seat to the FanDuel. It's a live final for NFL, an online final for the NBA one this year, but he's the defending champion, co-champion of the NBA version of it last year. He won his 4th live final seat here on FanDuel, and then he also won the seat on, I think it was Friday. He won the NBA seat for his first one for this year. We had an 8K win with 7 golf guy. Beat Street Bully Billionaire won $1,000, shipped it in Showdown last night, had a big one there. But it is, like we said, the last chance to get in and use code Turkey20. Tyler, we got a lot going on. So do you guys. Talk to us a little bit about what you guys have going on right now. Almost all the sports are back. Obviously, MLB's out, but just so much other going on. Talk to us about Line Star here for a little bit.
Yeah, it's a crazy time of the year for sports for sure, but full into NFL and NBA, NHL, college basketball, college football. We kind of got it all, but we're just an all-encompassing, fantasy, DFS, and prop betting site. So we have your projections, optimizers, bunch of different tools for DFS, and then we also have Props AI, which is our prop betting platform, using all the data we have for the DFS to support your prop bets. And we have underdog prize picks and a bunch of different sports books all feeding into there. So you can, make it your one-stop shop to kind of look at all of your prop bets and figure out how you want to attack, each day in any sport you want to play.
Yeah, I won't show it all off, but it is cool here. Like you said, like when you go under Props AI, which is, we always go to Perfect Lineup, but it's right over here. New tool that you guys have. Like you say, it's not just that. You've got your own Black Friday sale on that you guys can check out, but you just note it. Like you can tally through here and see what's going on each of the sites. And then you can actually scroll over and go further, but it tells you what the sign has the line set at based at the site that it's at. You can find where your edge is at. And then if you want to sign up for those sites, you can definitely do that and move over. So a lot more than just the perfect lineup. I like that you mentioned like the last couple times about the perfect lineup. You can also go back, go historically. You could see what some of the position stacks were. There's a lot going on with that as well.
Yeah. And this one, it's, you have it on the tiny slates, the 2-game slates, but you can click that link and go through, the different size slates that you want to research and whatnot to really figure out how you want to start attacking in contests.
Yeah. And for anybody watching this, in most cases, obviously niche people going in and looking at like how to review, analyze, go back. I do it plenty. I did my own stuff this morning. Then I come in and bring to the show some of the thoughts that I have from that, as well as other things. I think that's the importance of tools like this. It's everyone's just looking for the tool that's going to help them win tonight. And it's like, that's part of, the guy winning the golf tournament has to still practice all week, has a swing instructor, has a nutritionist. They're in grinding, trying to get in shape and form to be able to come out and perform. And that's kind of the same thing. I know I take it more serious than most, but most people in watching this, I think, take it pretty serious as well. I think this is a big part, finding angles and tools and things that others aren't using, or different pieces that you can just try and add to your process to be able to improve and actually get better at the game of DFS. So without further ado, Nades, I'm going to kick it over to you, man. This is the perfect lineup, the optimal, right? 49,800. So it did use up a majority of the salary cap, speaking to how it went yesterday and the points scored, as well as kind of how the pricing was set up just in general with good quarterbacks, but expensive tight end with Travis Kelce. Ended up being Pat Freiermuth in his second game back, where a lot of people were afraid. I didn't even think of it heavily enough. On both sites, he was cheap. $2,900 on DraftKings, I believe $4,900 or $48 on FanDuel. I think that would have shipped me the FanDuel $55 again if I had played him, because I played Otten at the same price, and if you had played Freiermuth, but just not on my radar, not something I really look back on and say, oh, if this, then that. That's kind of a different scenario. But talk to me about this lineup, Nades. It's kind of like the Millie Maker winner, not super stacked up, but there is some pieces in here that go together.
Yeah, there is some sense you can make in this. First thing that stands out to me is it's a lot of matchup-based plays, right? Obviously, matchups don't always get there, but a lot of the times they do, right? Josh Allen in a great matchup there for QBs. And the Pat Freiermuth play, I actually have a couple of things to say about that. Number one, the price, $2,900 for a starting guy there in a slower pace, weather game, division game with a bunch of gross stuff going on there. But also, he's $2,900. $2,000 or more, right around the $2,000 cheaper than the chalk tight ends, right? That people want to go to, the Trey McBrides, right? Those guys. He's cheaper than that, but he's also on the other side of the Jaylen Warren chalk, right? From the running back position. Everybody knew Jaylen Warren as a cheap running back. What do? You flip the script, right? You plug in a tight end spot where you know everyone's sitting in that 4K range. Playing Trey McBride and I forget the other tight end now that I'm drawing a blank here. Evan Ingram, right? 4,200, 4,700. People were playing Dalton Kincaid a little bit up there. So flipping the script there, and it allows you to spend up into that mid-tier range with a guy like Kyron Williams, right? Jerome Ford, a little bit off some of those chalk guys. So there is some stuff you can pull from this. Ramondre Stevenson in that game, which I was kind of shocked at his ownership, the ownership that Ramondre Stevenson came in once we reviewed the $20 Millie Maker. But overall, I mean, Devontae Smith, good game environment, good lineup there. The Josh Allen naked piece, obviously we're going to see that on the $20 Millie Maker when we review that. But I mean, 8,100, you can make an argument, right? Because the guy you want to pair him with is Stephon Diggs. Well, Diggs was super expensive, right? Dalton Kincaid, super expensive for the tight end when people were spending right below him with Trey McBride and Evan Ingram, things like that. And Josh Allen can do it on his legs, right? Am I going to go in there and run out Josh Allen naked on a 10-game main slate? Probably not myself. And obviously when we review the 555 Millie Maker winner, you can see how the guy there got different with the Josh Allen stack. So, I mean, overall, there's pieces you can pull from here. But the thing that did stand out to me was flipping the script with the Jaylen Warren chalk to double leveraging the tight end chalk with a guy like Pat Freiermuth for a cheaper price point, also getting you up off of that Jaylen Warren running back play.
Yeah, I'll come to you in a second, Tyler. Just a couple thoughts. First off, on the Josh Allen naked play, because it'll come up later. To be honest, as much as everyone's making fun of that lineup, and I'll kind of join in the mix as well. I don't like to bully, but we'll join in the fun a little bit. Just say it's obviously a lineup that you just wouldn't expect. But that was probably the best part of the lineup, if I'm being honest. Like, you can definitely play Josh Allen naked. He runs the ball. He could take those touchdowns at the goal line. Like, if I saw an Allen or a Hurts where it was very expensive to get, and you'll even see in the winning lineup in the 555, it's not Stephon Diggs. And it's not just because Diggs didn't do it. It's just hard to build. We talked about on the show yesterday, like Josh Allen with Diggs and AJ Brown would have seemingly been impossible. I know there's ways to get to it, but that does tie a couple things together. So that's actually the part I hate the least. I will say that. Justin says this, and it's true. This is a trend that started last year. It's typically worked better in the higher dollar, smaller field stuff because you need less to go your way and you need less ceiling. And people say, oh, these tight ends can't really have a ceiling. But when you have a guy at $2,900 like Freiermuth, or realistically, let's use one that more people were on in previous weeks, the week that there was no Ertz and you had McBride at 3,500, like it was pretty clear cut. You could literally just use him as a wide receiver one. He was basically that. And you could find your way to build more into your lineup to try and actually use a higher floor with potential ceiling, cheap tight end to find more high ceiling guys at the other position. So I actually have no problem with that. I think that's what's showing up more. It actually didn't happen on the winning lineups, but some got close with it. And it started last year. It's actually just adapting to the pricing and recognizing. I know people wait for scoring changes a la NBA, FanDuel, where people are like, oh, but there's different scoring in that. Now you should adapt to the different scoring, definitely. But you also have to adapt to the pricing that we're receiving. Like, when they went away from the 3K running backs to now 4K is the stone minimum. Like, again, things have evolved over time. So definitely appreciate that. And then the last one I wanted to bring up, Tyler, and then I'll hit you up here, is this Bijan finally got there right when a lot of us were off him. That was Sean. I think you watched the show yesterday. I'm not taking the victory lap. I'm saying it's just funny that Bijan and Kieran Williams were both the coach speak of the week last week, where they both said, and actually too, I can add a third one, Derrick Henry. He's not in this lineup, but There was Vrabel and Atlanta, and then McVay all had went on and said, we're got to get these guys the ball more. Or with Kieran Williams, they said he's healthy. We knew the Darrell Henderson stuff. So actually, funny enough, all the coach speak came true because Bijan was a guy they said we're going to start getting him a little more involved now that we're deeper into the season. Sure enough, it came to fruition. Tyler, your thoughts on this perfect lineup before we move on to the $20 Millie Maker?
Yeah, I mean, the perfect lineups are always going to have a little bit less correlation than the winning lineups. Well, usually I would say. Not so much this week just because the winning lineup is a Josh Allen unstacked one. But one of the things that we constantly see is, especially with the Rams, is if one guy gets there, another guy does. Running back and tight end got there. And then I can also touch on that Pat Freiermuth piece. I thought it's really, really interesting. Like, this guy was in the 4Ks last year. This year has just got hurt and hasn't really got his way. And then there's a new offensive coordinator. So all that happens is they go to him a little bit more. He goes from 1 target last week up to 11 this week. And, so I think it was a sharp play going into Freiermuth there. There's a lot that's changing. And at 2,900, it makes a lot of sense to go there.
Yeah, also, too, you just made me think of something, so I'm going to cut in. But, like, the other angle was, I know it wasn't super popular. We'll look at it. But 2 notes here, like a few more, actually. But, like, this one was the Warren versus Najee debate that really just turned in from content creators, including myself, of making fun of how they both maybe are, like, make fun of Najee. Maybe Warren's the guy, but we know the coaches don't give it to him. Everyone talked about, like, Canada, the OC being removed from there. So maybe things could change up trying to pick their guy. But in the end, it just ended up being Freiermuth. And we see that all the time where everyone's on one thing and you just leverage it in a different way. Freiermuth, thought he was back. He did play the snaps the week before, but I believe it only had like 1 target. So people probably shied away more for that reason. I'll bring up this, like Nades brought it up here. Another angle. You use the DVP rankings. We've got them over on our site at shipitnation.com. We have the advanced ones as well, where you can get a lot deeper. But just to note, like Pittsburgh going up against Cincy, tight ends, they're horrible against tight ends. So you could have thought it from that angle. You go to Philly, Rashee Rice with no Tony, no Hardman. I know. And guess what? Watson, you say too? Yeah, Watson got in the box as well. He just didn't show up on that lineup. So really wide receivers there. There was a way to get after it that way. I was trying to think of some of the other, Arizona, right? Like Kieran Williams. I know that the Higbee one makes no sense, but the Higbee one is also kind of funny. I think someone tweeted this out. I know it's more like a season-long thing. It's just a joke, kind of funny though. Was like, imagine you like are down. They said it like, I forget who it was. I apologize. It was like, imagine you're down so bad in season-long that you need to play Tyler Higbee at tight end. You get the news before the game that Higbee's inactive. You pull him out. Then you put whatever else in. You probably had to hit the waiver wire, pop somebody in. And then when the news flips back around and is like, you know what? He's actually active. It was a mistake. You're probably, it could have happened in DFS too, but you're probably too scared to put him back in the lineup because like, oh, it's too shaky now. Who knows what's going to happen? And then the guy just goes off. 2 early touchdowns in the game, just dominates right out of the gate. So I don't know. Things happen. Either way, let's move on. We are going to go to actually this one first. So this is JMT0813. Again, Nades, this is going to be quick. A lot of the stuff does line up. Like it's Collins, the same. It's Ridley and Rice. He didn't have Ridley, but he did have Rice. Ramondre, Freiermuth, he had the same. Like whatever. One lineup, got the job done. I will say this, though. The only takeaway, two takeaways. I already said the Josh Allen one. We talked about. At least that part is you're playing a guy that is a rushing quarterback that you don't know. He could spread it around. He could run it himself. Fine. So be it. The second piece, I kind of have 3, but the second one's quick, is that at least you played good matchups or projection plays. Sure, just try and hit it. But the third one would be, it is kind of the inverse of what we talk about on here from a strategy perspective where, and I'm not sticking up with the line, I'm just saying the facts. When we say, okay, when does a full-on onslaught game stack, like 4-3 type build work the best, is actually in the smaller fields where you can actually get away with more mistakes, right? You can play that lineup and get away with mistakes. You don't need the perfect guy at every position because the field's smaller. So when you invert that and say, okay, let's go the other way with it, again, I don't think it's great, but I'm just telling you, 2%, 5%, 1%, most under 15%, you still had plays that could get there in a larger field. You gave yourself a hard way of getting there. I will say that. You took the long road up and around when there's some freeways that may be able to get you closer, which Eric and JRK and guys like that up here were trying to join and get there faster than you. But sometimes that way works. You know, the tortoise and the hare, you think the fastest way is always the way. It's not always. So it happens. I will say this, just the place to do it in the largest field, sometimes you can get away with it because you actually do need more outlier scores that you may not find your way into. So just a note, but Nades, I'll let you talk about it. Anything here you can look at and see there is some good plays within the lineup, just not a lot else, not a lot of super correlation either.
Yeah, the first thing I see, number one, is the Nico Collins, Calvin Ridley. Now, I'm not in JMT's head. I don't know if he made this in the shower, waiting. I mean, hung over from the weekend or what happened here. But if he was looking at ownership, things like that, obviously we don't know when the guys are in there plugging these players into their lineups on DraftKings and hitting the submit button. But Nico Collins, from how I approach it, right? Nico Collins, Calvin Ridley. Well, guess who's two of the chalkiest receivers on the entire slate on the same exact teams? Tank Dell and Christian Kirk. So what do? You flip it. You go to Nico Collins. You go to Calvin Ridley. Mind you, Calvin Ridley just coming off the big game. Zay Jones was active again. And right, you put in the tidbits. Calvin Ridley does better when Zay Jones, for whatever reason, you think it's crazy. But he just showed it again. 13% ownership, 16% ownership. You take a look at Tank Dell. Tank Dell was 33% ownership. So you jump to Nico Collins for $400 or $500 cheaper on the exact same team and the exact same game environment, half the ownership. Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk came in at 18% ownership roughly at $5,700. So since you save that money off of Tank Dell, right? Well, you have the $300 to go up from Christian Kirk to Calvin Ridley, lower ownership, same spot, same game environment, everything like that. Rashee Rice, same team, same game environment. Everyone wants to plug in the 3K Justin Watson, right? Who Justin Watson still had a good game for his price point, but Rashee Rice is still the number one wide receiver there. He has been the whole week, right? Justin Watson's picking up over the last couple of weeks and stuff like that. But Rashee Rice is still the guy there in that offense. We already talked in the Pat Freiermuth play, the Ramondre Stevenson play, right? I was surprised at his ownership. Everyone thought, right, Tommy DeVito led offense there in the Giants. Everyone was slamming the Patriots defense and expecting the Patriots to absolutely steamroll this. Obviously, the game didn't go that way, but Ramondre Stevenson getting all the workload there at sub 6K against the Giants team there. I was surprised he didn't come in at higher ownership. So I did like that play. He was actually projected to be higher owned than that. And then I did want to bring up the Carolina defense. We don't talk about defense too much, but who was the defense? Everyone at the exact same price point that everyone was playing. The chalkiest defense on the entire slate was the Kansas City Chiefs. So he chose the way I'm approaching it is, well, defense, why am I going to eat the chalk at the defense when I already got other chalky plays, chalky game environments, right? The Nico Collins, the Calvin Ridleys, Ramondre is going to have ownership. Kyron Williams is going to have ownership. I'm playing Josh Allen, who's going to have ownership. Why would I play the Kansas City defense as well to just make that more likely to be max duplicated, right? When I'm fully spending the salary cap, switch to the Carolina defense at the same price. They scored the same amount of points.
Yeah, I was going to show that same.
But Kansas City defense was 25% owned, or like 24 point something, 23% owned. Carolina at the same price in a game there where it's still Tennessee, right? Carolina at 1% ownership. So you can pull some things from here. The biggest thing that stood out that made the most sense to me was the Nico Collins, Calvin Ridley, because it's about the same exact price differential and half the ownership. And actually outscored the other combination.
My man Marley is still tilted, and I don't blame you, brother. I'll text you later, but it's so funny. He was in a good spot for an FFWC seed after the King of the Beach debacle with the stack correction, and now he comes in and says, that's it, I'm ready for next week. Unstacked quarterback, lock up the flex early, which we should note, Ramondre in the flex, Kieran Williams and Jerome Ford, both in the afternoon slate that pop up top there. Ship it. Easy game. Yeah, brother. We just got to switch our style up. Don't do the process that's worked forever. I know you're joking, but it's still fun to look at. And I think, that would be the other thing. You notice little things like that, so be it. But this is like the one correlation piece, but it does look like just the plays. Like good matchup, good spot if the coach speak is real. Great matchup versus Denver if you believe him to get all the carries. These two guys were both in good spots at the lower ownership. No Tony, no Hardman, nothing else going on there. More balanced lineup in general. Not playing the Pittsburgh running backs, so play the Freiermuth play. He's cheap. Take a shot on him. Ramondre, good matchup. We just saw Brian Robinson get there. And then Carolina defense, so be it. Like you could have played Dell, Christian Kirk, and Tennessee D, and then that's where you get your $300 back there. You get, you go down. An example, though, you just flip it. you don't have that 300, so you end up having to go down to Carolina D. So always something, like Chris says, always got to get silly for the millie. And it does feel like that some weeks for sure. So Tyler, any additional thoughts or anything else you see that stands out you want to add before we move on?
I mean, this is just a way to build a lineup where you're slamming in all your favorite plays. You know, I congratulate the winner. It's awesome. But my one piece of advice for them would be to stop playing if they're going to keep building lineups like this, because there's no way that they win like this again. It's incredibly hard to win and incredibly hard to, pick a 9-leg parlay and hit everything. So congrats to him. And let's move it on, I would say.
Yeah, NH Payne, pretty sharp player. I want to see that I see often up there. Just check his stuff out quick. Josh Allen, Gabe Davis, Shakir, run it back with Devontae Smith. I kind of love this lineup. I always talk about this. Just take up all your spots at wide receiver. That's going to naturally get you different, but it still goes with what you need. Went Kieran Williams, Ramondre, Pacheco, Njoku, and the New England D with Ramondre. Like, that's just a great lineup. 216 points. Didn't get there in this tournament, but I mean, if you could look at this, you could almost hand-built this out on paper, just like a fair number across the board, everything. So I want to go over real quick, and you can just search it this way. Look up NH Payne. So they played 100 rosters. I always say this too. I know you got to max this. Like, again, you can play 75. You can play whatever you think. But like, the point is more just, sometimes people say this, but if you had 500 lineups and they're all, I don't know, like who sucked yesterday, that let's say you played 100 and let's say you played 500 lineups yesterday, if you were allowed to, and you played them all Mahomes, it wouldn't have mattered if you played 500, 1,000, 1,500. Like, you needed Josh Allen, so you needed the Trevor Lawrences with other stuff to go with. Like, there was other ways to get there, but mostly Josh Allen. So if you're on the wrong person, my point being, it doesn't matter how many lineups that you have. So I'm okay with this strategy. So with 100 lineups, let's see what they did. Went Allen, Baker, Jalen Hurts, Mahomes, Gardner Minshew. And for anybody that's watching, that's a member that follows my slate plan, this is typically what I do. Like, this is a good version of it. Like, you'll see in the slate plan, I have 4 quarterbacks listed up top. I'll say right in the notes, others that I might be sprinkling in somewhere in this range. I don't go too deep beyond 8, but just to show it, like, this is kind of the reason you get enough of all of these guys. You're even to the field, but you're overweight, double the field on Baker, up there almost double on Jalen Hurts, never Mahomes. So I can't advise this play, but still good for them. Like, I would have moved up Lawrence to there, whatever. I played Minshew, Lawrence. I played a lot of these guys. These were sort of the same guys I was in on, a little Kyler, pretty standard stuff. I really do like this setup. So just to note that, running back, took a big stand on Williams. That's great. Henry, Warren, Pacheco, Taylor. I wonder seeing Warren up at almost 30% here if there was any leverage on Deontay or on Freiermuth when we get there. Just having a look here now. No, it doesn't look like Pickens a little bit. So leverage. So got Pickens in the mix as well. And Deontay's down here. So not much there, but still, again, field on Tank Dell. This is actually one more note. I'll let you guys talk in a second. I just want to see this. So McBride, Kelsey. Okay, went with the higher priced Kelsey, and then match the field. So this is what I want to say, though. So 2 things. With Kansas City D as an example, with Dell as an example, and with Jonathan Taylor is an example. Now, mind you, he probably thought he was taking an underweight stand on Taylor, because I will say this, the industry, us included, very wrong on Taylor yesterday, but everyone was the same wrong. So at least there's that. Like, everyone was the same idea. We all thought it was going to be much higher owned. Ended up only coming in at 18%, just around 19. It's rounding up. I think it was 18.7 in this $20 Millie Maker. But I do want to get this point out, and Tyler, I'll get your thoughts on this, because I feel like people have this thing set up. Like, 100 lineups is a lot. That is a portfolio of lineups that you are welcome to spread out across. For some reason, and we get this a lot in the Discord, and people coming out, people maybe watching the show, where it's like, well, I'm either fading this guy or I'm all in. Like, there's nothing that says you have to completely fade a guy or completely be all in. And what I think people forget too is like, okay, well, they say this, well, he's paying the rake on Kansas City D because he played the field, or the same on Tank Dell. Well, it's likely in the lineups where it makes sense. If you go back to here, he had Lawrence lineups and Stroud lineups. It probably goes in there. But also, he's got leverage at every position. 8, 5, 4. Like, not quarterback's a harder one to do it, but let's go here. Kieran Williams lineups, Derrick Henry, Jalen Warren. You go here, heavy ownership leverage on A.J. Brown, Adam Thielen, George Pickens. So, like, that's the whole point. What if he has some Kansas City D, but it's with Thielen, Pickens, Henry lineups? Who gives a shit at that point? Like, that's where he's allocating it towards. So I feel like that's a thing, Tyler, where people think, man, I either got to be all in on this guy or fade him and take a stand. There's other stands to be made. They're being taken elsewhere at other positions. What's your thoughts on that? Because even at like roster construction stands of like Travis Kelce in almost 20% of his lineups, you're already different.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack here. First, we can start with how many lineups, they played. I don't think you have to max it. I think you need to play the amount of lineups that your bankroll can support. And you play the contest that best matches with your goals and the bankroll and all that. So if your bankroll only is supporting 100 or 50 or 75, do that and then figure out your edge and how you're going to attack the slate with that. And also then going back to the all in or all out on a player. Look, I never go 100% on a guy, or extremely rarely. In NFL, it is pretty much never. In NBA, it is rarely, but there's just no reason to go all in. You can diversify, your portfolio. It gives yourself some safety. You also still have the potential to win. You just don't need to go all in. And I hate that mindset that so many people have, that you have to play 100% of, 3 guys or something like that.
Yeah, and it's like, I'll let you talk on it, Nades, but it's also too, like, it's personal preference. We talk about someone, how big should my player pool be? Or people, like, you're looking at the wrong stuff. Like, someone will say, well, I saw last week so-and-so who's a really good player won, and they use 56 players in their player pool. I'm going to try and imitate that. It's like, that's not really what you should be looking at. And that's just a product of, it could be a product of that slate. It could have been that there was a better running back on that slate that they were 80% on, which naturally shrunk the running back pool, which naturally shrinks their overall pool. Like, there's more takes to it as well. People set certain caps. I see in the chat, they're talking about it. I will note quick before I let Nades go, like, we're, pretty.
I was just about to pull that up. I was just about to pull that up and address it right now. So get out of my head. Get out of my head, Tambo. But Mike, I don't know if you're still listening. We appreciate you watching, number one. Number two, I think what Tyler was talking about here is we are doing this show, number one, to help ourselves, help you guys create a process and become better players. Can you win with an unstacked quarterback? Absolutely. We've reviewed it a couple times where it's happened. But is it a profitable long-term strategy? No. That's what we're getting at. Can you win with it? Yes, absolutely. But can you go and fill out a Powerball ticket and randomly choose your numbers and eventually one time possibly hit the jackpot? Yeah, you could. Or could you just take that money and not go play the lottery and go put it in an investment firm somewhere else and have a better return on your investment? Yeah, that's probably the better option to do, right? So that's what we're trying to do. Can you win with it? Yeah, you can. But the more likelihood to be a long-term profitable player is to build lineups that make more sense than throwing a 9-team parlay into a draft. That's why DraftKings and sportsbooks pay the massive payouts for those parlays, is because they know it is favorable for them to offer those payouts to get more people to do that, because they're making more money off of those. So that's the point that we're making with the naked quarterback thing there. Can it win? Yes, absolutely. So that
just
did
a
want to
quick note
address
too,
that.
like someone said it last week. Like, it might take we may never see what you actually realize to be a profitable strategy. Like, it might take 10 years. It might take 12 years. Like, how will we know? We don't get to play enough NFL slates to even figure it out. No, I think it was Nerdy Tenor on a podcast, the Theory of DFS with Blender. And that's a great pod he does. And you break it down, but he was on with Nerdy. He's like, how will we know? You get 18 slates of NFL yearly. Like, we're talking, you could play for 6 years and you don't even see very many slates in the grand scheme of things. So you may never know, but also he's saying that person will never win again. And they won't. I barely see anybody win multiple milli makers, let alone the same person win them multiple times with unstacked lineups. It's almost always going to be that way. So just a note, can you do that and have it go your way? Of course. But we're trying to help you put yourself in the position to get lucky more often, not get lucky one time. It doesn't matter though. They won the million. We're not making fun of them for it. We're discussing what can we learn from it, if anything, and what can we take away. We just want to get better at the game, and that's really what it's all about. So appreciate chiming in and letting us know that there. This is definitely true, Justin. I think there's more to this too. It's a podcast, a show, something for another day, but this matters. Matters even more now with the quote unquote sim wars and things going on. Remember, the simulations are built to go up against an accurate field, meaning you not only know as close to the ownership as possible or get somewhere in that angle, whoever knows that best, but then there's steps to that to then be able to simulate the field in the sense of, okay, not just saying Hurts is 12% owned, but how many of those Hurts lineups, and AJ Brown is 12% owned, but how many of those actually go together? How many people are stacking it this way? The more you can get the accurate field created with the sims, the better your sims going up against them will be. So it matters anyway, but I guess what I would try and say the opposite side, it matters less. People go bananas over the ownership. Now, I can't play this guy because he's 23% owned. Like yesterday, JT, so many people. I don't get JT at 30%. There's no way I could play. I was in on him at 30%. I was very happy to see him at 18% in that tournament and only 34% in the 555 milli because I liked him as a play. The Vegas odds were like plus 300, plus 280 in some places, I believe, for 2 touchdowns and just opportunity knocks. Sometimes it comes down to opportunity. So definitely think that's something that matters. And I don't know what this is in regards to. Utica won with a snowflake lately, but he's won a lot of milli makers. He's not someone I'm talking about. I'm saying you don't see very many people, if any, win the $20 milli maker multiple times and with an unstacked lineup. We just saw it back-to-back weeks. These are 2 different individuals that won it. And it's not that I can't win. We were just trying to explain what we're working on to get better. Let's get better. Let's keep it going with this show. Let's move on to A Fountain, who did have a stacked lineup. This was the 555 milli maker. Tyler, they went Josh Allen, Gabe Davis, Shakir. Again, very hard yesterday to fit Diggs, let alone Diggs and AJ Brown. So it's kind of funny, but it did come through that it was actually Davis and Devontae Smith that you needed anyway. So that helps make things go your way, even with Shakir not really putting up the points. And Otten here, very nice lineup. Like Allen, Diggs, Shakir, Devontae Smith, 2 running backs as opposed to 3. Michael Pittman with Cade Otton. If you're not playing, funny enough, Pittman ended up coming in higher owned than Jonathan Taylor. You thought this was the way to get leverage off of it, but Taylor was only 18% instead of dropping down to the 2-point defense, which would have cost them on the Patriots here, goes to Ramondre with the setup of Tennessee defense, and then has Kieran Williams, also same thing. Could have easily played Henry at 6,400 with the defense and would have cost them the milli, even though Henry put up a pretty good score. But Tyler, talk to me a little bit about this lineup. This is definitely a really nice lineup across the board.
Yeah, no, it's a great built lineup. And, this is a lineup that you could repeat and, repeatedly win with. And that's what I was saying earlier is, that one person likely wouldn't win. So thank you for touching on that, Tyler. But yeah, the lineup is great. A double stack quarterback, run back with Devonta Smith. Before this slate started yesterday, that's one of the things I was thinking. I was like, you know what? I think you have to go to Josh Allen. You got to stack him. And it was really hard to get to a fully stacked Josh Allen or Hurts lineup yesterday. He found out how to do it and got it done. So bravo to what is it? A Fountain for the win there.
I'm clicking around, but yeah,
no worries.
The one that found it, but I really wanted to leech on to one point you just said that it was really strong. The factor of if it's a good spot, but it's also hard to stack in your head, that should not make, like when again, it's got to be comfortable being uncomfortable, but like that is one thing for sure. I'll bring up another point that correlates with that in a second before I go to Nades, but like Josh Allen, we knew looked good, but we just said he was hard to get with Diggs on his own. Extremely hard to get with Diggs and AJ Brown. Then was it comfortable to play Davis, Shakir, Devontae Smith? Probably once you got there and saw that it looked like this. But again, for most people building out, we're like, well, shit, if I can't make it look the way I want it to look or the way I think makes the most sense, let me just move off it. And there is other good spots. But in the end, this is a way to get there. And I think that's why. So Giant Squid, one of the best players in the entire world, especially with large field tournaments of Saber Sim, he's got this lineup here. This was the same thing I was bringing up yesterday about the Jacksonville-Houston game. Because while people knew it would get somewhat popular, if you look, He's got Ingram is popular. But even after that, like 10% Ridley, who cares? 14% Collins, like Nades mentioned earlier. A lot of people were playing Dell and Kirk. Lawrence, 85% of the people are going away from this. So my point was the opposite effect of this game. You knew it was a good game, but people were steering away solely because of ownership. But there was actually a ton of versions of lineups within that onslaught or overstack of the game that I loved. And these guys didn't get there, but you still had the Schultzes, the Zay Joneses, the Robert Woods of the world, the running backs in this game. I know ETN got injured and came back, things like that, but you had the other side within that game of Singletary and Pierce. It's not comfortable, but I'm just saying when you have a great game environment that you knew was going to be a pretty good spot, should have freaking went to OT on top of things. It just didn't. Could have, should have, would. It doesn't guarantee it, but you know what I mean? This one in the Tampa Bay Indy game where people were targeting had their chances, but this is another just really good lineup that would play well in a lot of qualifiers and high dollar, smaller fields and things like that, and almost got the job done here. So shout out to Giant Squid, but Lawrence, Ridley, Ingram, the run back is Collins. You go with Downs as a one-off here, Bijan, Kieran Williams, and then you round it out with just the secondary. This actually hit on everything, even though we don't care that much about the running back DST and the nades. I'll kick it to you. We should note here, we don't care about running back DST, but even when it's looking for low-owned player in this site's version of this setup, like to me, they're saying that no one's below 5, 5.2, 8.8, 7.2, 9.5. Again, who cares? It's all the same. Nades, do you have anything else to add on this one?
Yeah, the one thing, the Gabe Davis play, right, is an interesting play because he was kind of in that no man's range, right? People were going to Tank Dell, which was obviously more expensive, but Christian Kirk, right, for $400 more, people wanted to play Christian Kirk. People were going to Josh Downs, right? You already have Pittman. You're not going to go to Josh Downs and just single stack Josh Allen with Shakir and then play Pittman and Downs, two of the chalkiest projected receivers, right? Downs was projected in the 20 to 25% range. Pittman was projected over 30. Obviously, that changed a little bit. We already talked about ownership projections kind of across the industry. We're just didn't have a great read yesterday. But so that's the one thing there. And when people were going to Josh Allen, myself included, I was looking to get to Diggs or to Dalton Kincaid. So just stacking Josh Allen differently, because when you stacked him with Diggs, it became very, very restricting to build the rest of the lineup with other good plays that you wanted to. You wanted to target that Tampa Indy game, which he could still do because he went to Davis and Shakir, two smaller or cheaper guys that have been involved. Expected there to be a lot of points in this game. Everyone was targeted in this game. So he just stacked it up a different way. Overall, amazing build. And interesting to note that a lot of people do think, right, the running back decorrelation, he could have did this multiple different ways, running back decorrelation, right? He could have dropped down to the Patriots defense, correlated with Ramondre, or he could have put, since if he wanted to play Tennessee defense, he could have dropped Kieran Williams down $200 to Derrick Henry, and he went to shipped, which you already hit on. Right. So,
I mean, even though Henry has a great day, and that's still a very good lineup, it wasn't enough for this spot. And I think that was why I brought it up, because Nick was asking, I think that's what he's asking. I asked him to elaborate, but he said, how do you handle leans that don't correlate? I had a strong lean for Freiermuth, so I played Hurts. I just don't get the second part of it, I guess. But my point would be that, like you just said it here, a lot of people, Nades, would just say, forget it. I'm going to leave $200 on the table, another $200 on the table, and play 49.7. That's more than fine. And just play the guy that correlates with my D or something like that, right? Or change it up a little bit somewhere else. And I think that's kind of the key, that you can just build it around. Okay, he's saying it here now. I didn't want to play Pickett, and I built around receivers and running backs that correlated. The savings on my lean to Freiermuth gave me salary savings to go up to Hurts. That is another example of where it's fine, I think. Like, that's where, like a Deontay Johnson and a Freiermuth could literally just get there on PPR points alone that don't require Pickett, or you just have the money to go up, where I would still rather have a guy. And that's, again, people would make fun of that, but that's a spot where at least then I would feel better about it, because the rest of your stuff is correlated, makes sense, has some game stack stuff, has maybe a bring back to somebody in the lineup from your Hurts play, has a possibility for some of these other items, but I'm more okay with that. Nate,
Hurts also has rushing. Yeah, Hurts also has rushing upside too, right? The tush push, things like that. There's a lot of times where he throws a bomb to AJ Brown, who's 9,000 or 9,200, whatever he was. AJ Brown's down inside the one, whatever. Well, AJ Brown, gets those points, but Jalen Hurts gets the tush push twice, scores 2 rushing touchdowns. Well, AJ Brown's probably not going to pay off that salary, right? So doing a naked guy like that, or Josh Allen, who do have rushing upside, especially Jalen Hurts, right, with the whole tush push. I mean, every time they're inside the one, they're doing a tush push. It's just how it is because it's unstoppable, and he's going to score every time. So
I do want to show off my tilt. I had some tickets into this yesterday. It was a close call, but this was the end of the day. This was one of the lineups I had from the slate plan that I put on the site and talked about that Arizona Rams game. And this is a prime example. So like you see Dortch and McBride, but where's Kyler, right? But what it was Kieran Williams scoring, and these two guys are just going to rack up enough PPR points. I got this to OT. It only came 110th in the middle. He needed a lot more, but this was 12 points off from a fantasy football world championship seat. And I needed that last play of the game. I was the only one with Josh Allen and Davis amongst Shakir and Brown. So I needed Shakir or Davis to get a touchdown at the end. I'm sitting in the room with my wife. She's just like we just came back from King of the Beach where she was in the room sweating it with everyone. So she's always into it a little bit, but she'll only care if it's a sweat. She said, what do we need? I said, number 13 right here. He's in motion. I said, I think he's going to go up and hang a right, game over. And that ends the slate. It's OT of the final game and we win the seat. He runs up. He goes left. Josh Allen throws right to the spot I said. And, of course, there's nobody home. That cost me the seat. I still had a little hope because it's like now they're only kicking a field goal. I can get A.J. Brown the other way. But just for people to see this lineup, I can explain this one very easily. This is a fun one. Allen, Davis, Shakir. Instead of Devontae Smith, I went to A.J. Brown in the flex. It was very hard to get Allen, Brown, or Hurts, Diggs, or any lineups with them together that way. It was definitely tougher than usual. Then I went to Williams, Dortch, McBride. I said that could be the other afternoon game that you get some pieces where it goes back and forth. And like I said, PPR only, they can pick it up. And if he goes off for what we thought he could, I loved that. And then I also see, I talked about this on the show yesterday, if you're not going to play the Indy side, and I was heavy on Minshew, I was heavy on Taylor, but I said, when you're not, this is how you would leverage it. I said, I liked Rachaad White and I liked the defense against Minshew and against Taylor, because most people won't have that. 0.9%. Again, they beat the Kansas City D, who was 27% owned. So I don't care. It's not a brag. I'm saying it's more of looking for situational stuff. I really like a lineup like this for a tournament like this, where you really just need 2 games to get there and 1 high leverage situation to go in your favor. So I don't know. I don't want to spend all day on it. Do you guys have anything else you want to add for this slate before we get out of here?
No, I think we broke it down pretty well. Talked through it, and hopefully you guys in the chat like these breakdowns. Obviously, we've done them every week. Last week was on Tuesday with Tambo traveling back. But if you guys ever have questions or anything like that, if you're not a member in the Discord, now's a perfect time to join using that promo code Turkey20. But we're talking about this stuff constantly throughout the Discord. People are asking questions. I think we pride ourselves in our Discord being much less about 1v1s this, 2v2s that, and building your lineup for you, but more teaching you a process how to use our tools, our stack rankings, our projections to build lineups yourself, because every one of us should have our own bias. I'm much like Tambo. I listen to a bunch of shows, a bunch of everything across the industry, consume a bunch of information, and then they're using that to determine how I'm going to build my lineups. So that's what we do constantly in the Discord, and there's no better industry or no better community in the industry, in my opinion, especially for the price that you get in at.
Yeah, that's the thing with the Discord is like, we're still going to have these people asking 1v1s, 2v2s. We're trying to give an angle so that you can make a process around it. Like if it's a 1v1, I suggest trusting the projections. We have excellent projections. They work well. They oftentimes come through, but then someone will say, well, like my point on that is more about like, okay, if you do it that way and you stick with that, the next time it comes up, you're going to know to stick with it. If you go one-time gut, one-time projections, what about time 3 when it's the most money you've ever had a chance to make on the line? How do you decide? Then you're back to the coin flip. So people can hate on the coin flip and make fun of it. That's the point behind it. And I think Brock's saying a bunch of gibberish, but he's got good comments surrounding it. Best, most respectful Discord. But I like this one. If you aren't looking back, how are you getting better? I don't know. Insert that gif of, beats me. Who knows? Like, I really don't know, because you have to. That's part of the game. You always want to be looking back. We also look back at our stack rankings. And again, the Lawrence stack, the Minshew stack, Baker, some of these guys were involved. The Mike Evans play can come out of here. If you're not playing this one, go to Bijan. But a lot of the high-end environments came through, and a lot of it you could find just in this top piece. If you even just, Freiermuth could have been there. He wasn't. But if you go up here just to the top spots and sort by value, like the plays we just talked about. So Lawrence, we just looked at that lineup that was up there. You got Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts right here. Like you could have mixed and matched off this. We looked at some of these lineups yesterday. They didn't come through because no OT, but that Gardner Minshew with Downs, Pittman, just ways to think about it where we put in ETN. We talked about leveraging and putting in White. That's like a 5-man starting point off just the top 3 stacks. That didn't work, but it's the point of learning the idea of what you can do to get different on a slate and get better. Again, if you guys want to join, go to shipitnation.com, go to join the nation, use the promo code Turkey20. If you want to join Line Star, Tyler, I'll let you sign off. Any final thoughts on this review? Anything else you want to bring up on Line Star before we get out of here? Promo code SHIPIT works over there as well.
Yeah, I actually just want to go back to what Brock was saying there. So one of the things that is great about Line Star is you can go back to any of the different previous slates and go through those and figure out how you would attack it and then see, how it would have worked. And you can really dig in and help solidify your process by just going backwards and looking at some of those histories. And those histories are all free. So, you don't have to pay to come look at all that and help try and figure out your process a little more. You just got to use some of your time to make some more money going forward. So all of those are available. You just got to go behind and look through that and figure out, which ways you want to attack slates going forward.
Yeah, he's got the toddler involved, he said, too. Speaking of Brock, he said, sorry, that was the toddler. But yeah, it's definitely important, getting it better. And then our guy, Rin, says, love it, teaching the toddler earlier. Hashtag SHIPIT, my guy, he's out there. Go collect is in the mix. We appreciate you guys. Nades, final thoughts from you before we get out of here?
No, final thoughts. You guys will be going live soon for the Mail Media Network for the breakdown tonight. 500,000 up top. Still great prize pools. Should be a good game there. Division game. Hopefully no defense, no injuries to deal with. But you guys will talk through that. We got NBA going on. I'll be on this channel right here doing NBA show this afternoon. There's a 5-game slate for that. And then we got a 6-game NHL slate tonight too. So we'll have you covered for all sports. We'll be in the Discord constantly. Promo code Turkey20 gets you 20% off. And that $20 off, right? I think
$20 off your first month. So you can get in for less than $50. It's $49, works out to less than $2 per day to get in the Discord, get all those sports, projections, ownership. It's literally everything that you could possibly need. The optimizer, if you don't have one and need one, we have a partnership that does not come with it. So that's the extra to it. But the whole point is when you get all that stuff, you're saving all that money. You're able to purchase and afford whatever optimizer it is you want to use. And we keep it that way on purpose. So you nailed it with that. One last programming note, you mentioned it, but this show will end after week 15. So the 18th, the Monday, will be the final review show that we do. The following week is actually Christmas Day. The week after that is New Year's Day. And it's actually the week after that, we're going to have a different show on this channel for the golf streets. Myself and Degenerate75 are going to be doing a brand new show starting on the week of the 8th, the Monday there for the Sony Open. So excited about that. Appreciate everybody tuning in. If you have more questions, you're a member, hit us up in the Discord. If you're not a member, get over to shipitnation.com. Use promo code Turkey20 before it runs out at Monday Night Football Lock tonight. We'll be back later on the Mail Media Network, Hoop, Title, and myself, 2 p.m. Eastern. For man, I'm messing this up big time. For my guy Nades and for our special guest Tyler, I'm ToeTagginTambo. Let's ship it.